Hi, my name is Payton Harris-Woodard, and I am a painter and paper maker. My work started really from collaging. As a child, my mom was a lawyer who always had like a home office, and I would take her printer paper and make like paper shoes or like print paper dolls. And then as I got older, I made like larger collages, began tracing those, and those turned into like ballpoint pen drawings, like sketchbook drawings. Started to kind of grow those larger and larger. And then once I got to college, I took painting, and then I started to just kind of transfer over. At first, they begin to just be kind of like monsters and then kind of deities. And then really in graduate school, they turned into really pictures of me, I guess, images of me over time. I also was introduced to paper making, and I just loved how playful the paper was. Painting felt a little bit stricter. I had to think it out a little bit more precise. And I just started to kind of play with it. At undergrad, I didn't know really anything about being an artist. At the end of my time, someone was like, "Oh, you all have to do the Bachelor of Fine Arts like end of the year show." I end up cutting out all the drawings I had made in a paper making class, and I couldn't figure out like how they would be installed because they were two dimensional. I ended up like hanging them using fish wire, and as I kept hanging them and hanging them, it became this sort of like installation. And that's what actually was my spark moment, really like seeing how people interacted with it. It was very different than the paintings. I am exploring the relationship between two-dimensional painting and drawing and the three-dimensional paper making. I worked with Chicago Pope. I was able to kind of play with different paper recipes to create these large cotton pulp packed bodies in which I made like 6 foot sculptures of. I'm really happy with the work, and I received a lot of like one-to-one time. Bodies came out different. Some of them just had odd limbs, like a bigger head with a smaller neck, just how I drew them. So they came out really well. Right now, what I'm doing is just trying to figure out how to display them, how to add to them, how to make them stronger. My influences. I gotta think about that. So oddly enough, my influences at first just came from like memorabilia. When I was around maybe 11 years old, I had got like sick. I just fell sick randomly, and I had like an emergency brain surgery. And I was out of school and just out in the hospital for about maybe 3 months of my life. And I think once I kind of like I call it awaken again, just the memorabilia of things from my childhood versus things of my experience as an adult just kind of merge. And so as I started to paint, I realized that I was just like pulling up different, I don't know, shapes and images and things and kind of mixing them together, which kind of makes a personal symbology. Obviously, I reference my body and my face and my images, but it wasn't always like that. Thing I should add, I'd probably like to talk about my job a little bit. I am currently the Southside Community Programs Manager at Arts of Life. Arts of Life is a creative studio that supports artists with and without intellectual disabilities. I am currently the manager of the first ever Southside expansion, which is really important when we talk about like a redlining of the city. And the reason I brought it up is just because it's been such an integral part of my community and my everyday life and who I spend the most time with. Working with the artists one to one, seeing them like really break rules. There's an artist, Katrina Jackson, that I have, and I learned like just watching her paint and watching her really do like pastel over the paint. Honestly, it's something that I never really thought of. And I've been there now for 2 years. And so just being able to really work beside them in a studio setting, sometimes I catch myself really getting into the admin work. And it just kind of drives me crazy. And then I kind of stop and come back to my painting. So a lot of most of my recent work has been made in the studio while working with them. I honestly don't know. I just made a lot of work, and I went to school during COVID, and it was just like me and the work. And to be honest, whenever the work is displayed, I'm freaked out. And it's a conversation between me and the work. But when other people see it, it just changes the work completely. And I'm always just like, oh my God. I really just hope that the work can impact anybody who feels connected to it. I've learned that when people tell me that when they view my work, they either love it and feel really connected to it, or it's like blasphemous. So I don't know. Haystack actually, it really changed my life. It was actually my first ever art residency. I enjoyed like at the end of our workshop sessions, seeing what everybody made at their different workshops was also really fun. And I also participated in my first auction, which was really interesting. And I gave my first artist talk, and I got a standing ovation. So that was actually really fun.